It's a lot easier to stay up and watch Phillies games when they're on a West Coast trip like this one in Arizona here. It's a lot easier to do that when they score 15 runs and they make it fun and exciting. I woke up and thought, poor Garrett Stubbs. Poor Garrett Stubbs. He was the only Philly who grabbed a bat today who did not get a hit. Yesterday, excuse me. The days kind of ran together. The 9:40 start times, where I get done the post-game show at like 1 o'clock. It's always an interesting time the next day. So they kind of run together, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm saying. And how about this? After JT Realmuto hit for the cycle the night before, he was the last Philly starter to get a hit last night in the win. Just an interesting thing. Zach Wheeler looked crisp. The velocity, not so great, but still looked crisp in this outing. 6 innings, 1-run baseball. It's the first time this season that Zach Wheeler has had back-to-back starts where he's gone at least 6 innings and allowed no more than a run. No more than a run. So that's a good thing to see right there. We'll talk about the Phillies' 15-3 win over the Arizona Diamondbacks, and they just kept piling on. With all the leads they have blown, including 2 nights ago where they were up 5-1, the Phillies, they just kept tacking on runs to the tune of 15 of them. So that's exciting. We'll get to that. We'll get to all the offense. We'll get to Zach Wheeler. We'll have our fun with all that. And then, ladies and gentlemen, Doc Rivers, Glenn Rivers, Duck Rivers, as he's become affectionately known in our chat. He unfortunately had to sound off one final time. And credit to Bill Simmons, who's just making all the Sixers news in the offseason so far. We had the conversation yesterday about Bradley Beal potentially coming to the 76ers with a trade with Tobias Harris or for Tobias Harris with the Washington Wizards. Oh, my goodness gracious. He was talking about all of that and how Bradley Beal, his number 1 landing spot is Philadelphia. It's the odds-on favorite. It's not even close, according to Bill Simmons. Well, Bill Simmons decides to have Glenn Doc Rivers on his program and on his podcast. And Doc Rivers has the, I don't even know what you would call it, his parting words of wisdom for Joel Embiid and James Harden and what those two need to do to take the next step, what they're going to do if they stay together in Philadelphia. And I think what Doc Rivers had to say about Joel Embiid is perhaps one of the most eyebrow-raising things, because it involves taking the next step in his career. We'll get into that. And the James Harden thing is, I don't even know who he's talking about. But I know that the subject is James Harden, but when he describes the way James Harden needs to play and the example he gives, that's just not the guy. That's just not the guy. Unfortunately, it's not the guy. So we'll get into all that today. But the Flyers made another hiring here. So we'll get to that coming up in just a second here. But let's start it off with the Phillies. Like I said, it's just so much easier to stay up for those West Coast games when you have an offense that's absolutely mashing. And a couple of things jumped out to me right out of the gate. I mean, if you're looking at a 15-3 win, you obviously want to talk about the offense and what they did. You also want to talk about the pitching, most notably with Zach Wheeler. But this was a game that just everybody looked comfortable in the batter's box. Everybody looked comfortable. Whether it was Kyle Schwarber leading things off with a 450-foot blast down the right field line that made it into the concourse at the cavernous Arizona Diamondbacks home ballpark, or it was, Trey Turner or Bryson Stott with multi-hit games, and 8 players, by the way, coming up with multi-hit games for the Phillies last night. Everybody looked comfortable in the batter's box. And it might be easy to say that when you have a 20-hit performance in total, but when you look at a guy like Trey Turner, who has just flailed away and chased pitches well out of the zone time and time again throughout the season, and then you see him last night with how he was able to work a nice at-bat there in the, I want to say it was the 6th inning last night. He was just calm, cool, collected for pretty much every single at-bat that he was out there. I mean, you can look at it really in the 2nd inning when he got a second at-bat of the game, or a second plate appearance. Worked a 5-pitch walk that he was just calm on. He had, in his first 2 plate appearances, he worked 2 walks. The first one was on 4 pitches. The second was on 5 pitches. Just calm in the box the entire time. And then when you see him go out there much later in the ball game, in the 8th inning, for instance, he gets that infield single, that little chopper up the middle, if you will, that he's able to beat out at first. Just calm in the batter's box, not chasing anything out of the zone. That's what you saw for the first 2 months of Trey Turner's career as a Philadelphia Philly. And it was to the point where it made a lot of us nervous, whether or not this was going to be the guy we're going to see for the duration of a 10-year deal at $300 million. No, thank you. I don't want to see that. I need to see a guy relax. I need to see a guy that looks like an all-star, looks like a guy that can patrol shortstop with great quickness and speed and a great glove. I need to see this guy not really go flying off the handle, not looking crazy, not missing line drives hit right at him, not missing fastballs out over the middle of the plate, not chasing sliders low and away, not chasing curveballs that are landing in the dirt 2 feet in front of him, like he did in the last time they faced this Arizona Diamondbacks team, but he also came up with that game-tying home run in the 9th inning, which was nice. But this is the version of Trey Turner that a lot of us have longed to see. Patient at bats, getting on base, stealing bases. You saw all of it last night with Trey Turner. The Phillies even threw out a double steal, not with Turner, but they threw out a double steal with Bryce Harper and JT Realmuto last night, which is a great sight for sore eyes. They've done that a couple of times this year, but most notably, seeing this version of Trey Turner now, this is the guy that the Phillies, without question, signed. And seeing him be this comfortable is fantastic. You go through the lineup last night, and you see guys that were out there like JT Realmuto, I mentioned, was the last of them to get a hit. Bryson Stott had 3 hits for you last night. He was the only Philly with a 3-hit game. This is the team that you assembled. This is a team of mashers that Dave Dombrowski assembled, that John Middleton assembled, that at the time the Buck Cousins assembled. This was a team that was supposed to go out there and get you consistent offense. You have seen that for, 8 of their last 10 games? This is the offense that you have waited for all season long. And they're finally giving you what you expected them to give you. The most optimistic Phillies fan looked at this team before the season, said, well, even if they struggle pitching-wise, which they shouldn't because you got Zach Wheeler, you got Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez will be back. You got Taijuan Walker to be your 4th starter. You should be set pitching-wise. With this lineup, you should do great things. That was my philosophy going into the season, and this was the game that you really saw it all come together. 15 runs, man, I'd love for that to be the status quo, but I just don't think that's that's kind of hard. Not for nothing there. But when it comes to what this team was able to do last night, I was just simply blown away. And then you think about a guy like Trey Turner, who now in the month of June is hitting .313 with a .377 on base percentage and a couple of home runs and also working 5 walks. That's a great sign. I mean, I know Trey Turner's not going to steal the headlines from a guy like Kyle Schwarber because everyone loves the long ball. And as the old commercial said, chicks dig the long ball. But if you've been waiting patiently, as I have, as many of you have, for Trey Turner to turn it around, it appears that he has finally done so. And last night was another example of that. And really, it's not just last night. It's through his 48 at-bats so far in the month of June. It's the 2 home runs, it's the 5 walks, the 5 runs driven in. It's only 10 strikeouts, by the way. And the .313 batting average and .377 on base. That's Trey Turner. The June Trey Turner that we're seeing is the Trey Turner that he's been for the vast majority of his career. I know while we're all getting excited about a 450-foot blast by Kyle Schwarber, hey, it set the tone. No question about it. It felt like it was a year ago. Between the first inning and the 9th inning, it felt like it was forever ago. But that set the tone for the ball game. And I know that's going to steal the headlines. It's always going to steal the headlines because Kyle Schwarber just turns into a different animal in June. But the guy we've been waiting for in Trey Turner, the version of baseball that I said, there's a better version of Trey Turner that we'll be seeing here, and he'll look a lot more like a $300 million man. Well, we're seeing it right now. So I'm going to go ahead and appreciate what I'm watching right now in Trey Turner, and then hopefully you see it again today in Game 3 of this 4-game series. Then you see it again in Game 4, and then you see it again against the Oakland A's, who, by the way, just happen to be playing their best brand of baseball they've played all year. So thanks. Being the Rays 2-1 and winning 6 in a row now, is it for them? 7 in a row they make it to last night? Damn it! Just before we get there, come on! Before the Phillies get there, I should say. But everything was clicking for the Phillies last night. And when I say everything, the JT Realmuto tag up where Corbin forgot how many outs there were. Corbin Carroll forgot how many outs there were. That was an odd play because that came in the third inning. Bryce Harper, the Phillies actually started it out with a bit of a boner in that one, okay? A boner of a play. You had Bryce Harper go out there, and he hits the fly ball to center field. Now, at this point in the series, Bryce Harper had only had the one hit in the series opener, and that was a hit that ended up being a double because it bounced out of the mitt of McCarthy in center field. So then what ends up happening is Bryce Harper steps to the plate in the third inning, hits a fly ball to center field, puts his head down, lollygags his way up the first baseline, and it pops out of the mitt of Jake McCarthy in center field. Bryce Harper should be on second base. To all the kids at home, you run that play out. And I'm not saying every single play, every time you make contact, you're busting it as hard as you can down the first baseline because you're going to beat it out. It's not like I'm not making some kind of like over dramatic hustle point here. This was a ball that was hit high in the air to center field. You at least run it out. And he just lollygagged down the first baseline. Should have been on second base. You could see the frustration. Now, it ended up not being a big deal because he still ended up scoring in the inning, and the Phillies ended up scoring 2 more runs in the inning. But still, he should be on second base. No ifs, ands, or buts, no excuses. So he's on first base now. Realmuto works a walk. He goes down in the count 0-2. He works a walk. He comes back in it. Now you got runners on first and second with 1 out. Alec Boehm steps to the plate. While he's at the plate, he smashes a RBI single to center field. A cutter was up in the zone. You go up 5-0. You now have runners on first and third with 1 out. Cody Clemens then steps to the plate, hits a pop fly to left field, to Carroll Corbin there in left field. He forgets how many outs there are. JT Realmuto is standing on third base. Carroll Corbin's hat falls off in the process of him making this catch. He thinks there's 2 outs. So he makes the catch. Hat falls off. He turns around, turns his back to JT Realmuto at third base. JT Realmuto's like, what the hell is he doing? Oh, he forgot how many outs. Boom, turns around, books it for home, scores the 6th run for the Phillies in that game. We're used to see that happening, like the Phillies making those mistakes. Bryce Harper, this is an example of the Phillies making a bad mistake, but didn't hurt the Phillies. Diamondbacks not paying attention with a guy who's going to win the Rookie of the Year. That's a pretty amazing thing. That's a break you don't really get too often, and they got it last night. They got every ounce of a break last night, did the Phillies. And that's what, if you're going to get the breaks, you got to capitalize on them. That's exactly what JT Realmuto was doing. Carroll Corbin is a hell of a ball player. But I don't know what happened to Corbin Carroll on that particular instance. Phillies went on to just continue to roll, just continue to tack on runs. 5th inning, you get the home run for Bryson Stott, a slider that he just it hung up enough. The 7th run of the ball game for them. And all throughout this process, Zach Wheeler had looked sharp and crisp. The only complaint you can make is the velocity. There wasn't. I don't think there was a 98-mile-per-hour fastball that he had in his back pocket that he was whipping out there last night. I don't think there was even 97 last night on a consistent basis, at least. But as far as what was really working for him last night, the curve and the sweeper, I thought were working fantastic. He got the changeup involved as well. But when you saw him out there on the mound, he just looked like the guy that's supposed to be in control. And that's the guy we saw for the vast majority of last season. It's a guy we haven't really seen all that much this year. And for it to be June 13th as of yesterday, now June 15th, okay, almost halfway through the month here, folks. For it to be that late in the season and this just be the first time that he goes at least 6 innings, allowing no more than a run, we've been waiting patiently for that too. Ranger Suarez will get the ball today. Starting pitching has been a lot better and a lot more on point over the last couple of times around the rotation. Aaron Nola has been very questionable. Ranger Suarez seems to have figured it out. Hopefully now we're looking at Zach Wheeler as a guy who has really figured it out. Nola was bad in his last start. He'll be better in his next one, right? That's how it works. The up and downs, all that fun stuff, right? Right? Fingers crossed. If this Phillies team has really figured it out now, June is just going to continue to be a lot of fun. They get the win today. They at least get the series split. and then you can wrap things up on Thursday by heading out of Arizona and on your way to Oakland. We're feeling a lot better about yourselves before the series started. So that's a great thing. I've taken 2 or 3 from the Dodgers. Take maybe at least 2, maybe 3 of a team that's a first-place team out there in the NL West. And I'll cross my fingers that that's what they're able to do. But after the game, Rob Thompson addressed the media where he just talked about the win top to bottom.
Overall, it was really well-played game, good defense. Swung the bats well. Wheeler was fantastic, and Ortiz did a great job for the ball.
What did you think of the heads-up base run that JT?
That was great. Thank God the guy's Carroll's hat came off, so he had to turn around and pick it up.
Cody got an RBI back from that home run last night.
That's right.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you have to do against these guys, given how many comebacks they've had? Like, just keep piling on?
Well, I mean, you should do that against everybody, really. I mean, not that you should, but that's kind of the plan. Just keep hitting and not quit. And, yeah, this is a good ball club, and we'll shut them down pretty good.
Did shut them down. 101 pitches. If you look at the play-by-play for Zach Wheeler tonight, 101 pitches is what he threw. The box score, rather. 101 pitches. He issued his first walk to Corbin Carroll on his 90th pitch. He threw the 4th ball to Corbin Carroll. So it took 90 pitches for him to issue his first walk. He did, I felt, in the 6th inning, really looked like he fell apart. I think it was the 10-pitch at bat that he had to Smith earlier in the game or earlier in the inning that really started off that 6th inning. Smith ended up grounding out to shortstop. Then Gurriel ended up striking out. Carroll works the walk. You're at 90 pitches. Walker steps up there, gets the RBI double. Carroll scores from first because he is blazing fast. And then Rivers flies out to center field. 101 pitches for Zach Wheeler last night. But like I said, the curveball was working great for him last night. The sweeper was working great for him last night. Those were his main out pitches that he was able to get guys to chase different parts of the ball game, which was great. But, yeah, looking for consistency from Zach Wheeler, that is certainly something that we are looking for and hopefully have found it. As far as everything else, just overall, especially Trey Turner, we're looking for turnarounds this season. We're looking for consistency this season. You get that, and some good things are going to happen. Last night, the skipper, Rob Thompson, was asked about this team and what's the next step for Trey Turner.
Yeah, absolutely. He's not chasing as much. I think he's in the ground. He's balanced. His head's not moving as much. Yeah.
Good spot for Trey Turner to be in. By the way, I don't know what it is about hearing music through the walls of the manager's office, especially on road trips, I guess, because, home games, he's at his own press conference, but a little press conference area there. But when I hear that music pumping through the walls, man, you got to love it because they're feeling it, especially the offense, feeling it the last couple of days. Pitching needs to even out, but as of right now, I'm watching this Phillies team, and they're just a fun team to watch. Look, it sucked that they lost the opener in this series, all right? Let's acknowledge something. That sucked. It sucked to watch them lose 9-0 in the middle game of that 3-game series with the Dodgers. But if we're watching this team be able to stack wins now, especially against top-tier opponents, if they're able to go in there and be the wet blanket to the Oakland A's recent run, despite fans protesting in the stands out there in Oakland. By the way, I've been to that Oakland County Coliseum. Oh, it's terrible. Oh, man, it's terrible. It makes the Vet look like the Four Seasons, man. Let me tell you that much. It makes the Vet feel like the Four Seasons. But anyway, listening to Rob Thompson talk about Trey Turner just seems so matter of fact. So he's keeping his head still, seeing the ball better, get better at bats. They go on to talk about the post-game press conference about Trey Turner being able to steal bases again. Is a great thing for him and his confidence and being able to, look forward to getting on base, basically. Not only am I going to get on base, but I'm going to steal a bag. Not only am I going to get on first, I'm going to beat out an infield single, but I'm going to be right there to steal second base as well. And that changes the whole dynamic. It happened last night in the first inning, I believe. Yeah, Trey Turner works the walk. Castellanos is up at the plate. Turner steals second. Next thing you know, bada boom, bada bing. Nick Castellanos puts one down the right field line. He gets an RBI double. Then they make their first out with Bryce Harper there at flying out the left field. JT Realmuto reaches on a throwing error by Rivera at third. Realmuto is able to take second on it. Castellanos ends up scoring on it because of the throwing error. It went out of play. Bohm gets the RBI ground out. Stott was moving on that play. So you have a manager telling his team to be aggressive. They take him up on it. Bryson Stott is moving on that pitch. Alec Bohm would have been a 6-4-3 double play, but Stott was moving. They couldn't get the out at second. The inning stays alive. The Phillies have another chance. In all, that first inning where they put up 4 runs, Cody Clemens made the final out of the inning. Look, it was a bad call, too. That inning could still be going on right now. But they put up 4 runs, 35-pitch inning for Zach Davies. They really made him work. 85 pitches in total over just 3 innings of work last night. That's what we're looking at for Zach Davies. So that's what you're looking at last night for the Phillies. But listening to that music pump through the wall is a beautiful thing. And then I'm doing the post-game show last night, and our old friend Ruin Tomorrow, Joe, who I tweet with usually during games every once in a while, he points out to me on the post-game show, he gets in the comments that they brought back Dancing on My Own. I didn't see that. And then I saw yesterday told Anthony and Andrew that, or Nick Castellanos mentioned that. I don't know if I like that energy. But guess what? I also don't like the lineups that Rob Thompson's been putting out there, but they seem to work. They seem to score runs. That's for sure. So I guess if you want to go back and listen to that song, all right. But just when it comes to the playoffs, I don't know, change things up. I don't know. The Phillies will go in some other rut between now and the end of the season. The Phillies will go in some other rut. Maybe during that rut, they change the song again. They have a different kind of energy in there. I don't know. The song that you won something with. Maybe that'll be the case. I'll cross my fingers for that. Ranger Suarez gets the start for the Phillies tonight. 9:40 start time. The last of the 9:40 start times for the Phillies. So that is a good thing. More on the Phils in our morning rush. Hey, remember that Doc Rivers character? Remember that guy? He was the coach here for a couple years, right? Well, he went and talked to Bill Simmons of The Ringer on Bill Simmons' podcast. And he just had all sorts of things to say. He was talking about how Doug Collins used Michael Jordan one way and Phil Jackson used Michael Jordan another way. And that version of Michael Jordan was the one that won 6 championships, the triangle offense, because there was motion, there was movement. And James Harden needs a similar type of change. So is Doc Rivers the Doug Collins in this scenario? I guess he is. Or is he saying that he already tried to sell James Harden on the idea that movement is good in basketball? It's an interesting thing. A lot of interesting things that Doc Rivers highlighted. But I want to start it off with Joel Embiid because we're all coming off watching the NBA Finals. And by the way, shout out to Colin Gillespie, Archbishop Wood, fellow Archbishop Wood graduate, who I watched win a state title for Archbishop Wood. And then he, of course, went on to win at Villanova, and now he's an NBA champion as well. Didn't get to play because of a broken leg, but still gets the ring, still gets to hold the trophy. He won, part of the Nuggets, which is nice, which is great. Good for him. But watching Nikola Jokic in this NBA Finals, watching the whole playoff run, I know a lot of us have started talking about the MVP award in the NBA and talking about who's really deserving of it, who's the better player, and all that. One-on-one, Joel Embiid wins. Sixers-Nuggets, I think the Sixers win. But that's not how it played out, unfortunately. And Joel Embiid hasn't been good enough to get to that level that Nikola Jokic has been at, and now has the ring, obviously. So what's the next step for Joel Embiid? We've talked about being more of a facilitator. We've talked about being more like Nikola Jokic. We're not looking for, or I'm not expecting Joel Embiid to all of a sudden just figure it out offensively in terms of spacing, passing out of double teams better, which Doc Rivers talked to Bill Simmons about. But just give me a little bit of it. I'm not expecting him to just jump to a Nikola Jokic type of level. I'm not expecting him to be like Wilt Chamberlain, where people are like, you can't pass. And then all of a sudden the next year he leads the league in assists. I'm not looking for that either. But I think it's realistic to talk about taking a step forward with Joel Embiid in terms of his role as somebody to set up his teammates. In essence, make his teammates better. That's the next step for Joel Embiid. And that's one of the things that Doc Rivers got into here. I'll show you this clip right here, or rather a quote from Glenn Rivers to Bill Simmons on the podcast. The next step will be making his teammates better. When he does that, it's going to be hard to stop, and I think he will do it. Well, look, I know that we could poke some fun at Doc Rivers, but like in all seriousness, I don't look at Doc Rivers as like he's some idiot or imbecile or doesn't understand basketball. Like, I don't look at it like that. I think that every brilliant person I've ever met in my life has one or two blind spots that just, they make sense to them, and they go in that direction, and the whole world's looking at it and being like, that's not right. Why would you do that? What? There's something about it. Larry Brown would always look at Derek Coleman and be like, no, this guy, he's gonna figure it out. I don't really like Derek Coleman. But anyway, watching the whole thing play out with Joel Embiid to this point in his career, I do think there's that next step there. But while Doc Rivers was here as a guy who is not a basketball imbecile, why did he not have Joel Embiid playing at an even better level? Or why did he not have him play at that higher level in the playoffs, especially when everybody knows that he's not operating at 100%? And in the interview, Doc Rivers is talking about how Joel Embiid came back and he wasn't 100%. He wasn't the same guy. The guy that was playing in the early games with the 3 games against the Nets wasn't the same guy that came back and played in the second round of the playoffs against the Boston Celtics. Well, if you know that, how about alleviating some pressure from him and having him get out of double teams more, pass, defer, move the ball around a little bit more? Why not? Why not do that as you're already the head coach? You're already a sound basketball mind. Why not make that adjustment? Was it too late? He couldn't make the adjustment in the playoffs? That's what, when I saw that, when I heard that, I thought it was very odd. You had the chance here to make him more of a facilitator. Was Joel Embiid just not ready to take that step? Man, that's a possibility. So, an interesting thing from Doc Rivers as far as looking back on his time in Philadelphia and talking about what needs to be done now. He talked about Joel Embiid missing the first couple of years of his career, as we know. He's gotten used to not playing. Okay, odd, but it's been a while since he's been in the league. He's going to be 30. It's been a minute. So this is nothing new. Anyway, as a fly zooms around the studio. So that was odd. The next thing here, this is what gets me the most here, is this. And stay with me here for a second, okay? Because he's talking about James Harden. This is what Glenn Rivers said to Bill Simmons on Bill Simmons' podcast for The Ringer. What makes James great is that he's one of the best individual players to ever play the game, ball handling, attacking, but that also allows you to attack him. If you know where he's at, you know where the ball is at. And so in the playoffs, when teams are game planning against you each game, double teaming and taking the ball out of your hand, making it harder, it's easier to do that to James compared to how you do it to Steph Curry, how you take him out of the game. He's running around, he's moving, it's hard. Here's my issue, and I have a lot of issues with what Doc Rivers had to say. So what he's saying right there is James Harden has to be moving. He has to be running all over the place. That's never been James Harden's game. James Harden's game isn't running around looking for the ball or trying to get open. James Harden's game is step back threes and blow by. Blow by rate and 3-point percentage. Quickness, not speed. Quickness, not speed, has been James Harden's game. Who did you think you were coaching in the playoffs? Everyone knows what James Harden's doing. Everyone understands how to game plan against James Harden. The problem is that, yes, I agree that James Harden is pretty damn good. Individual players, absolutely. What does he call him there, right there? One of the best individual players to ever play the game, ball handling, attacking, all that jazz. Yeah, absolutely. But when I watch James Harden, I know what he's going to do. I know he's going to go, either he's going to try to blow by the guy in front of him, or he's going to step back and try to hit a three, or he's going to pass it off and stand there. He never passes it off and then runs around the circles all the time and then gets the ball again and then shoots a three. That's not him. That's Steph Curry. Steph Curry's built on speed. James Harden's not built on speed. He's built on quickness. Those are two different things. So, yeah, in the NBA, in the playoffs, I would assume it's going to be a little bit easier to game plan against him in the playoffs because he's doing two things and he's in one spot or the other. Steph Curry is all over the place. You're not going to get that type of performance from James Harden. So, again, why not make that adjustment during the playoffs? If you know you're not going to get that from him, then why am I not seeing a guy like, I don't know, Tyrese Maxey handle the ball more? Because then you're taking the ball out of the hands of a leading assist guy throughout the entire season. But if you know that the other team is making that adjustment, where's your counter to that? And I guess that's why we're sitting here talking about the Sixers making another second-round playoff exit, not sitting here talking about the Sixers either how they lost in the conference finals, how they made it to the NBA finals, or how, by some divine act of God, they won the NBA finals. That's what's so frustrating about looking back at the time that Doc Rivers spent here and reading. Kyle Neubeck wrote a great story on it, listening to the interview with Doc Rivers and Bill Simmons, them talking about it. It's just all odd to me that this is the way you look back on your time in Philadelphia, and this is where you leave Philadelphia, whether being fired or whatever. He was fired. But whether for whatever reason, this is what you look back on. Where's the changes in the moment? Because the changes in the moment don't seem like they're overly complicated. When he got into the conversation about Doug Collins and Michael Jordan and Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan, I was like, okay, so are you Doug Collins in this comparison that you're drawing? Because if that's so, then Nick Nurse is going to come in here and he's going to make Joel Embiid a better basketball player. He's going to have him be more of a facilitator, and he's going to have James Harden stick around, and James Harden is going to be more like Steph Curry. If that's the comparison, all right, fine. And then that's great things because Jordan went on to win 6 championships, and that kind of worked out. That was good for the Bulls, right? It's not happening. And the more I think about it, the more I'm convinced that James Harden is just not coming back to Philadelphia. And that's another thing that Bill Simmons talked about is how James Harden is just, the decision is made. He's going back to Houston. He's going to see if he can't drive up the price a little bit more, but that's that. You guys know where I'm at. I don't want James Harden back in Philadelphia. I'm ready to move on and take the next step. And if the next step is going to guarantee another second-round playoff exit, then so be it. It's just going to be up to Daryl Morey and how he improves his team in the offseason, and hopefully he's able to do that to a great extent. But I'm looking at these comments and listening to Doc Rivers yesterday, and I just can't for the life of me understand how so quickly you have an answer to something that you could have had a month ago, and it would have been a totally different story. Is it the players not being able to make that adjustment? Is it James Harden just simply not being Steph Curry? The other thing that was just crazy to me, and this is probably the one of the things that I didn't like about Doc Rivers was the lack of self-awareness. The example of that is when Austin Krell asked him the question about in a particular loss in the regular season, what about this loss was coaching? And Doc Rivers said, "Would you ask Pop that question?" It's like, are you Pop? Wait, hold on a second. Pop's got 5. You got 1. Why? Huh? What? But anyway, he talks about how he would have loved to have James Harden earlier in his career. A younger version of James Harden. And what he could have done with that version of James Harden. Hey, look, there's still no championship there for James Harden earlier in his career. But he hasn't gotten better as his career has gone on. And he was pretty damn good in his prime. MVP, lost in the conference finals to the Warriors of all teams. He was pretty good. Whatever he was doing was working well, just not well enough to make it to a championship or win a championship for that matter. So that's Doc Rivers and his final thoughts on Joel Embiid and James Harden and his time here in Philadelphia. Let me tell you about Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there on Jewelers Row. For over 40 years, Steven's been in the love business in Philadelphia, helping people get engaged and fall in love. Steven Singer Jewelers is home of the perfect price. Now, what's the perfect price? I'll tell you what the perfect price is. Steven Singer Jewelers guarantees the perfect price, which means while other kids, other jewelers are out there and they're marking things way up just to mark it down a couple of bucks in front of you, makes you negotiate, makes you haggle, makes you work for it. At Steven Singer Jewelers, there's no pressure. You just sit back, relax, and a real jewelry expert will treat you like a real family member at the other corner of 8th and Walnut and give you that perfect price so you can sit back and relax, not worry about haggling or having that pressure. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price, home of the perfect price, online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Let me tell you about the great people at Manscaped. Father's Day, Sunday. Check out Manscaped.com, the leader in below-the-waist grooming. Join 4 million men who trust Manscaped. Use promo code Farzy at Manscaped.com and get 20% off and free shipping at Manscaped.com. You'll love their Platinum Package 4.0, which includes their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer as well as their Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer. And yes, they do come with skin-safe technology that helps you reduce the risk of nicks so you can manscape with confidence and comfort. So check out Manscaped.com. Use promo code Farzy for 20% off and free shipping. How about the great people at Freestone Farm CBD? FreestoneFarmCBD.com. You'll love their tropical tasting Bayox that clocks into the chart-topping 24.1% and Super CBD, which is half into Kush, and 21%. Genetics of these guys are off the charts. So try Freestone Farm CBD at FreestoneFarmCBD.com. How about PHL Sports Nation? Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's PHLSportsNation.com. Let's mosey on over to the chat check and see how you beautiful people are doing on this fine Wednesday morning. Mullet Alvarado, good morning. Professor Dutch, Guten Morgen? Is that German? That's German, right? Are you in Germany right now there, Professor Dutch? Sean Kilrain, good morning. Oakland A's are on a 7-game winning streak now. They still have a minus 192 run differential. Thank you, PJ. That is impressively awful. Professor Dutch, Castellanos must have saged his Ben Simmons home and made peace with the Philadelphia baseball gods because, man, is he raking and playing good defense. He's been playing good defense since the playoffs last year. I agree. But, yeah, hitting-wise, holy Stromboli, that guy is hitting. Wear more chains to get more tattoos just to piss off my dad. What, Professor Dutch? What was that? Professor Dutch, I'm not much of a lineup guy. I think you're a professional hitter. You should hit regardless. But this lineup Topper put together last night was perfecto, in my opinion. It's hard to argue when you got 15 runs. That's the result. Now, the philosophy, there was one thing that jumped out to me. I think that was it Marsh? I think it was Brandon Marsh. Yeah, Brandon Marsh batted 9th last night. Cody Clemens and him both left-handed hitters. Clemens getting the higher spot in the order was just interesting to me. But everything else, Schwarber, Turner, Castellanos, Harper. I don't mind Harper batting cleanup, but he's got no pop in his bat right now. He's going, what has it been, 14, 15 games since his last home run? You could definitely tell he's frustrated when he just misses some pitches. He threw his helmet against the Tigers. You guys saw that in the dugout. We talked about it. He's definitely frustrated with the power numbers not being there. But he put Trey Turner there in the 4-hole. Maybe this is just him trying to get it. Maybe this is Rob Thompson just trying to get Bryce Harper going. I don't know. But the power numbers certainly have not been there. But yeah, as far as the lineup goes, 15 runs. What do you? I'm not complaining. Professor Dutch, hopefully Ranger Danger gets similar respect tonight. He deserves it. I concur. Sean Kilrain, Wheeler was wheeling and dealing last night. Sean, he absolutely was. The Coliseum is run by stray cats. Literally, what a dump. The Oakland County Coliseum. Yes. I don't say this to make fun. Okay, so I'm not making fun of homeless people when I say this. I am saying this as an odd observation about the Oakland County Coliseum. I was working a game out there 5-6 years ago, and we were getting shots of the stadium. We were getting shots of the stadium for a Raider game. And they zoomed into like a space in the stadium. Maybe it was the parking garage right next door, but you could see it clear as day from the stadium. It was like right next door to it or right in, like it was connected. I don't know. but it was right there. And getting a stereo or getting the shots, right? And you look in there and you're like, what is that? And it looks like you can see a tarp, whatever. Like, what the hell is this? What? And it was literally homeless people living in it. And I guess that was their home. And it was just like, this stadium's done. I think this stadium's done. Yeah, I think it's over. And there were people last night that were chanting "Sell the team." I know people can relate to that in Philadelphia with what people were saying with the Flyers not too long ago. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. But yeah, that stadium is not good, Sean. Speaking from experience, that stadium is not good. The only thing that is cool about it, and I don't think that this isn't the case anymore because the Warriors moved, but you used to be able to walk, and not a lot of people know this. I remember going to the first Raiders game and then being in like the bowels of the stadium, and I walked out to the field, and then I remember we had a crew lunch, so I walked back past our production area, and I go into our lunchroom, and I heard like a basketball sneaker squeaking, and I was like, "That's what?" And I turn around, and right there is the Oracle Arena. Like right there is where the Warriors just won 3 championships, and I'm like, "What?" My mind was blown. Like I didn't know that. And the way I came into the Coliseum, I couldn't see the Oracle Arena, so it was a little bit of a surprise. But interesting, you literally I walked onto the court, looked around, I was like, "Oh no way, that's awesome!" And then walked back down a hallway, down a couple steps, walked for a little bit, and then I'm on the field at the Raiders field. So bonkers. Coliseum is run by it's funny, the Coliseum in Rome is actually run by Stray Cats as well. 21,000 fans showed up last night, a last-ditch effort to save the A's. Shame the ownership has done what the ownership has done to those fans and former players. PJ, growing up, man, the Oakland A's were a force to be reckoned with. I mean, you had the Bash brothers, you had Ricky Henderson, obviously. They were seeing that uniform, and one of my earliest baseball memories, no lie, one of my earliest baseball memories. My grandfather was an usher for the Orioles for 25 years. The last 10 of those years, I was alive, okay? I was in the world. And we lived in Baltimore for a year when I was 7, I want to say. And my dad's job was bouncing around a little bit, and we ended up in Baltimore, which was great. I had a lot of family down there, and my mom's originally from down there. So we could go, because my grandfather was an usher, we could go to any game. It was awesome. Like, you could get cheap seats, and his section was right behind home plate. So he would tell us what seats were open that nobody was sitting in, and we could sit in those seats. So it was a great thing as a kid. Oh, my God, it was great. And I remember the Orioles were playing a banger of a game. It was like a 10-9 game against the Oakland A's. And this is McGuire, Canseco, Henderson. This is those Oakland A's, okay? And I remember Dwight Evans got acquired by the Orioles that year. He had a long career with the Red Sox and finished up with the Orioles. I think Brady Anderson was involved in the trade too. So anyway, Brady Anderson, maybe Sam Horn? I could be wrong. But anyway, I remember it was the bottom of the 9th inning. Bases were loaded, Orioles and Oakland A's. And I remember leading up to this point, I think McGuire went yard. I think Canseco went yard. And I just remember 2 things. One, that they were just dominant. And the other, their bat boy, I remember as being like a 7 or 8-year-old kid, wanting to punch this like 12 or 13-year-old kid. Because he was like celebrating way too much for having done nothing. I just remember being pissed at that as a kid. I was right behind home plate. I was the first seat. And I remember from that point on, I hated the Oakland A's, and I still hate the Oakland A's. But anyway, Dwight Evans, and I was right behind home plate. He hit a grand slam at the bottom of the 9th inning to force the game in the extra innings against the Oakland A's. And then I think Greg Olson came in and blew it in like the 10th inning or something like that. It was a pitcher for the Orioles. There's a lot of Greg Olsons in baseball there. But one of the memories I have of the Oakland A's, and that was a dominant team. And I remember the Orioles getting the crap beat out of them most times by the Oakland A's. But yeah, they were a dominant team, man. And now what they have become, you're right, PJ, what the ownership has let them become, aside from being winners of 7 straight and beating the Rays, up until that, they were pretty terrible. Mia Sanchez, that was fun last night, actually holding a lead against the Diamondbacks. Had the game on the radio until the 8th inning. Last August, I had the 7-0 game on until the 4th inning. Let's go, Phils. Thank you, Mihai. Congrats to the Nuggets and the Golden Knights. Yeah, the Golden Knights won the Stanley Cup. How about that? A team born 5 years ago as a Stanley Cup. You know, people are pissed about the Nuggets winning a championship. How about diehard Flyers fans? We went through a process here in basketball, obviously, and it hasn't bore the good fruit of a championship. And it feels like we've been on this awful road as Flyers fans lately. Well, since the 70s, if you want to go with the championship idea there. But another team just found out a way to do it better. Another team. What's next? The Kraken? Anyway. Thanks to everybody in the chat. You guys are great, as per usual. Nate Gardowski on the Jacob Media Sports channel is saying Real Muto is on fire. Let's take a minute and just appreciate JT Real Muto. And I feel like it's become a very regular thing now on the show where I say JT Real Muto is the most unsung hero on this Phillies team. Schwarber steals headlines, especially in June. Bryce Harper gets a lot of attention. Nick Castellanos has been mashing. Trey Turner has been figuring it out. But JT Real Muto, I really feel where Real Muto goes, the Phillies go. And now you're looking at JT Real Muto with 6 hits in his last 2 games, busted out of that 0 for 14 slump, whatever it was that he was in. He has started to really turn the corner over the last couple of games. I mean, that's an understatement. When you hit for the cycle, you're the first Phillies player to do it in 19 years. But I just thought it was funny that after hitting for the cycle, he's the last Phillies starter to get a hit. And he ended up getting 2 hits in the game. So that's pretty cool. But looking at his June so far, let's see how much he has risen in the month of June. He's now hitting 275 after a 228 May. After hitting 228 in May, you are seeing a 275 batting average and a 326 on base percentage from JT Real Muto. Over the last week, 18 total at bats. He's hitting 333 with a 429 on base percentage. So yeah, I'd say he's on fire just a little bit. Is JT Real Muto. And he's got great numbers in his career in Arizona, but this season in particular against the Arizona Diamondbacks, 16 at bats now, 438 batting average with a 526 OBP in 5 games against the Arizona Diamondbacks. And not too shabby right there for JT Real Muto. The Flyers did make a hiring. Welcome, Morning Rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. The Flyers hired Patrick Sharp as an advisor in the front office. If you're a Flyers fan and you remember back to Ken Hitchcock didn't like the way Patrick Sharp practiced. He traded Patrick Sharp to the Chicago Blackhawks. Chicago Blackhawks would later in 2010, with Patrick Sharp, beat the Flyers to Stanley Cup final. Patrick Sharp had a hell of a career. Couple of Stanley Cups there in Chicago, and actually, and it was a great broadcaster as well. I thought he was great as an analyst, and now the Flyers have hired him to work in their front office. He has come back to Philadelphia a couple of years too late, but hopefully he'll prove his worth as an executive rather than a guy on the ice. So let's cross our fingers for all that. I wanted to get some Eagles conversation here because we're in that dead period now between OTAs and training camp, where hopefully nobody does anything stupid. And let me tell you, the worst clickbait I have seen, and I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, but the worst clickbait I have seen is Jalen Hurts suffers injury at softball game. And I meant to bring this up the other day. Now, Devontae Smith had his softball game up there at Lehigh Valley, home of the Iron Pigs. Dallas Goedert won the home run derby. Chad Ochocinco said he wished he'd played for the Eagles at some point during his career. You made a lot of headlines. Terrell Owens was up there. You made a lot of headlines with that. And you raised a lot of money for charity. So thank you, Devontae Smith, for doing a great job with that. But the one thing I can absolutely do without is the clickbait headline of Jalen Hurts suffers injury at the softball game. And it got me. And I'm like, whoa, how come more people aren't talking about this? What are you talking about? No. Click. He slid into third and got a bad burn and scrape on his leg. You got me. Folks, if you need an example of clickbait, that's it. And it was multiple sites. It wasn't just like one site that put it out there. And I was like, you bastards, you got my click. And I am so I don't just willy-nilly go clicking on everything, ladies and gentlemen. I ain't like that, okay? I'm very selective. And I saw that, and I'm like, you bastards! You got me. Anyway, he's fine, is the end of the story. Bastards. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This has been the Farzy Show, presented by Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. One place, one price, the perfect price. Online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Coming up a little bit later today, 8 o'clock on the Jake and Media YouTube channel. Don't forget, you'll catch Jody Mack and Johnny Mack for Birds 365 coming up at 8 o'clock today. Be back with you guys tomorrow. Jim Hyder produced the program, did a wonderful job as per usual. Let's at least go for the Phillies series split. Clinch a series split with the Diamondbacks today. 9:40 start time tonight, I should say. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Be back with you guys tomorrow. See ya.